Welcome. I hope everyone can hear me all right. I tell you, it's so wonderful to, and we're so honored to have so many outstanding individuals here. Coaches, alumni, athletes, administrators. Very special. I can remember coming here about 20 years ago. There was two stories that I always heard. One was the glory days of Oneonta State Athletics, and we were the best athletic college in the SUNY. We had the trophies to show for it, and somebody took our building from us. So I always kept hearing those two stories. 20 years later, it's about time that we honor those athletes, as well as dedicate this wonderful building. And there's no better way to dedicate it with the inauguration of our Athletic Hall of Fame. So there's a lot of firsts going on here today. I can always think when I first came here 20 years ago, the pride that was around Oneonta and continues to be here. All of that was due to many of the athletes and many of the administrators that are here in the audience. Only in Division III. I think that one thing that we want to make sure today that you go away with is the sense that how proud we are of Oneonta. We're proud of Oneonta, we're proud of where it's been, where it is today, and where it's going in the future. Whether it be athletics, or whether it be the new field house, whether it be the academics at Oneonta, whether it be the support that we're getting from a variety of areas. This college is a college that certainly many of us hold very dear. And today we'll reinforce that. We have two firsts here today. One is, of course, to dedicate the new field house, and the other is to inaugurate our first Hall of Fame class of 1999. To start out the festivities, for our dedication, I want to introduce a gentleman who is responsible, his hard work and dedication to see this project through to the end has been an inspiration to a lot of us, and it's been a real pleasure to serve under his administration as the athletic director, Dr. Endowment, president of the college. Dr. Endowment.
Good morning. What do you think of our new field house? It's a 30-year overnight wonder in SUNY time. I still get a rush every time I walk in this building, and we've kept shots of how it was constructed, beginning with the digging of the foundation and so forth. So it's a great addition to the campus. As Steve was indicating, we really have a lot to celebrate. To begin with, we are now 110 years old. Our institution began on September 4th in the year 1889, so we're beginning our 111th year. Secondly, of course, we are so pleased and proud to inaugurate our Hall of Fame. And behind me, as you can see, are a distinguished and accomplished group of men and women. Not accomplished only here at Oneonta, but later on in their lives as well. And they are the first class, the best of the best, and will lead the rest to join into the Hall of Fame later on. Let me call your attention to a couple items that have to do with this initiation. If you look on the back of your program, you will see that there was indeed a Hall of Fame selection committee headed up by Don Llewellyn. I'd like to ask all the members of the committee, including Don, to stand up and let us greet you with our applause. Where are you? Don, you and your team did a terrific job. Also, if you look down to my right, your left, you will see where the Hall of Fame will be located. And I want to thank Brad Morley especially from Butternut Graphics, both for the Oneonta seal up above as well as the work on the Hall of Fame itself, which we will unveil shortly. Where's Brad? Please stand. There you go. Thank you, Brad. The largest part of our family, as you doubtless know, is our alumni. I can't give you the exact count. I would guess we probably have about 42,000 alumni. I realized with a shock the other day that in my 11 years, I have presided over the commencements of about a quarter of those alumni. So you can blame me for about 12,000. But I think it's entirely fitting that we're naming this particular field house as the Alumni Field House. I can tell you, without going into details, that were it not for 4 of our alumni, we would not have this field house, because they put the shoulder to the wheel at a very particular time. So in other words, there was alumni help all the way. And of course, as you know, we're building an endowment. We thank the alumni for their continuing help with that effort. So I'm very proud and very pleased today as we step forth and dedicate this building as the Alumni Field House. Thank you so much for coming.
It is now my honor to introduce Mr. Richard Reed, class of 78, who is the president of the College of Oneonta Alumni Association. He's a member of the College of Oneonta Foundation and Board of Directors. Richard?
Welcome. I'd like to correct a little error of my own just now. I stood up with the members of the selection committee. I was not a member of the selection committee. I reacted like I was in church when people started saying stand up. It's my job as president of the Alumni Association and a member of the College Foundation to thank the individuals and the companies that are responsible for getting this building built and funded. It's a job I'm proud to do. I'm going to stick to the script pretty much so I don't miss anybody. On behalf of the Alumni Association and the College of Oneonta Foundation, I'm pleased to welcome you to this momentous occasion. Today we celebrate this wonderful new building and dedicate it to our alumni, who have waited patiently for 3 decades for the dream of a field house to become a reality. Today also marks our inaugural induction into the Athletic Hall of Fame. On behalf of our 43,000 alumni, I extend congratulations to all of the inductees as they take their rightful place in our Alumni Field House. We dedicate this Alumni Field House to our alumni, past and present, who have distinguished themselves through their academic and athletic achievements, their careers, their community service, and their commitment and support of our college. A number of people and organizations deserve our recognition and appreciation. Their continued efforts to endow our new field house will provide crucial funds to support the many activities that will take place here. We extend our thanks to the Alumni Association, which has spearheaded a campaign to raise $1 million to endow this great building, an endowment which will provide annual funding for major events, equipment, enhancements, and the College of Oneonta Athletic Hall of Fame. Also to Karen and Jim Elting, whose commitment has endowed the Weight Training and Fitness Center. KeyBank, which will endow 3 scoreboards. And BT Bank, which will endow our alcohol court. The members of the Alumni Association Board of Directors, who have made personal gifts and pledges to name the meeting room. John and Joan Gross, who will endow the coaches and faculty offices. John Sabol of Alternative Inc., who will endow the scoreboard. And of course, President Alan Donovan, who deserves special thanks for the leadership and support he provided to bring this building to completion, for the inspiration he has always given to our alumni. More than once, I ran across Dr. Donovan in Albany. I'm an attorney, I practice in Albany, and found that he was over there really lobbying for the college to get this building built. Deserves a lot of credit for getting the funding and getting it done. With a solid foundation provided by these and other individuals, businesses, and organizations, our fundraising efforts for the Alumni Field House Endowment are off to a strong start. In total, commitments of over $400,000 have been made. There are still many special gift opportunities available, and we hope you will join our winning team by supporting the Alumni Field House Endowment campaign. 110 years ago, our first college president, James Milne, dedicated the first campus building with these words: "I see possibilities full of promise. Today we dedicate. Tomorrow we change possibility into reality. The school of today, cold brick and stone, becomes the living heart of tomorrow." 110 years later, those words still seem fitting. Today we dedicate the Alumni Field House, the home of our legends and the arena of our dreams. To all of you, the living heart of tomorrow. Thank you.
Representing the athletes presently at Oneonta, Laura DeLay, class of 2000. Laura is a member, of course, is the president of our athletic advisory committee and a current member of our women's field hockey team. Laura's going to say a few words on behalf of the athletes at Oneonta. Laura?
3 years ago, there was a rumor going around campus that a new physical education building would be built for the year 2000. I expected to be just like every single one of you, graduated by the time this building was complete. 2 years later, there was a new rumor going around that the Alumni Field House would be complete for the fall 1999 semester. And now, 1 year later, those rumors have been found to be true. And I have now the opportunity to use this building. And never before have I ever been more proud to be an Oneonta State athlete. To all those students and athletes who have attended Oneonta during the past 30 years, thank you. And now, your dreams have become reality. Congratulations.
A few years ago, I went to a gentleman, and we was in our department. Well, I'll introduce in just a minute. We started talking about it was about time to have a Hall of Fame, an athletic Hall of Fame, and we talked about it back and forth, and we shared some ideas. Then I ventured outside the department, and I think I ran into Dr. Donovan, who basically said, "Get this done," and so it became done. But it's an honor, you know, when I joined the faculty, and there's still a number of our faculty present who have been here 25, 30 years, who were involved with many of the athletes and administrators that we are going to be honoring today. But when I talked to Don Llewellyn about chairing this committee, first of all, the resolve and the commitment and the pride that Don has about Oneonta athletics is just remarkable. For any new faculty coming into to the Department of Athletics and Physical Education Oneonta, if you shake Don's hand, the first thing he says is that, "Boy, you better get the job done. We're going places here at Oneonta," and he reminds us of the commitment that Oneonta State coaches and administrators have had historically and should have in the future. To get this dream done, there had to be more than just a commitment from our committee. Funding certainly was very important, and the next person on the list was someone who has really assisted us big time in order to provide the capital for the, well, not only the Hall of Fame, the presentation over here, but the plaques and the other memorabilia that we're going to be giving out today. Paul Endowment, who heads up our college foundation. Paul jumped in with both feet, was very committed to the program, and I just want to introduce Paul. Paul's standing in the back. Paul, could you just wave to us right here? Without your commitment, Paul, I'm telling you, thank you very much. The other person who came aboard was the, of course, head of our director of our alumni association, and Dee Davidson came aboard and helped organize us and kept us going in the right direction. And I just want to say thank you to Dee. Dee, where you are over here. Now comes the fun part. Introducing my colleague who will take over as Master of Ceremonies, a future Hall of Famer, Don Llewellyn. Don?
You guys really made a mess of this up here. It's going to get loud. This is a great day for all of us. As someone who's been here 35 years and has really loved being here, seeing all you athletes and coaches come back is indeed a pleasure. Last night when we were out at the Brooks Barbecue and watched all you people come in, I hadn't done a lot of planning for this because I thought I'd just get up here to go off the cuff like I've done for 35 years here. I've fooled you for 35 years. But I got home last night and I really started to think this thing out. And I said, damn, this is really a big day for us and for myself. So I started to jot some things down and I started to think about each individual athlete here. And I'm one of the ones here that has seen all of these athletes actually perform. And I started to think about situations that took place as these athletes were here. I can remember Brian Lamb, after we were playing a big game against Albany State, and the fans got together mid-court after the game to shake hands. When we played Albany, Brian, they weren't shaking hands, they were throwing punches, what they were doing. And I was up at the top of the bleachers watching all this go on, and here's this Brian Lamb out there, grabbed this kid, put him in a pretzel hole. One of our wrestlers are going to take care of it. Remember that, Brian? I think that was the best pin that you ever recorded. The opening. But I started to think about this thing, and I said, my Lord, this is going to be quite an event here today. It actually didn't happen like Steve said, really, in terms of me taking this job. They wanted somebody old enough, that could remember people. That's basically what it was. And then I think also I was elected. I think I went to the bathroom or something during a meeting or something. You know how that works. You come back and you find that you're president of something. But we do have Jim Baker here and Al Sosa and John Curley and Carol Lazina, all people who were here actually before I came here. And so they all have great recollections of all these athletes today too. Well, first of all, before I start, I'd like to just talk about two people on our committee, and the committee did a fantastic job. We've been working on this thing for a year. But Vince Fody and Dick Berg, who are both here on the committee, should really take a lot of credit for this, because they have been administrators here at the college and have helped recruit some of these people here. And Dr. Fody made sure that all of them graduated. Vince did a great job along those lines. He's got some great stories he could tell too, but we won't get to those today. It's a great day for all of us here, administrators, today's athletes, coaches, former coaches, families, and friends of the inductees, and finally you, the first class. All of us who've enjoyed your great triumphs on the field hockey, the lacrosse fields, the swimming pool, the wrestling mat, the basketball and volleyball courts, the baseball diamond, and the soccer pitch. Okay? We now get to enjoy your induction as the best of our athletes at the college that we all hold dear to our hearts. The tradition and standards that you have set while competing here will be those that our current and future athletes will strive to duplicate. But because times are different now and situations change, your achievements and records may always stand above the rest. There's an area, though, that I want to talk about. And there's an area of our athletic programs that are showing great progress here, and that's the areas of women's athletics. And as you take a look at this class today, okay, the class today reflects the history going way back into the 40s. But there's a great change taking place today. And if you'd have told me 15 years ago, as I stand here, that Don Llewellyn would be coaching a girls' sport, he probably would have said, what planet are you from? And now, after I've been involved with 10 years with my particular team here, I am part of this change and a very willing part of this change. And as we all know, in 1972, Title IX came in, and it's helped our women's athletes greatly in getting the achievements that they've had and are going to have. And I think in years to come, this Athletic Hall of Fame is going to change somewhat, and you're going to see more representation of our female athletes on here. Remember, as we put the first one in, it had to reflect some of the past. And as we know, the past was dominated primarily by male athletes. So that's a day that we're going to look forward to. I want to talk first now about a common thread that all of us have here today. Okay? When I came here in 1972, 1967, the gentleman who hired me, Dr. Hal Chase, and whom we now have a building named after across the street, he was the man who recruited me here and told me that this is where I should spend my time and got me going. And again, the common thread that we all have here today with our staff that he recruited, okay? And then we brought these athletes on board, okay? So he basically still has a thread here just about with everybody here today. And he was somebody that was my mentor, as well as the mentor of a lot of our coaches who have had these athletes today. And so as this day goes on, he becomes more and more part of my memory, okay, as we get through this day. Without him, these inductees still would have been successful, no matter where they were, but would they have been here? Because Hal brought in the coaching staff then went out, and we tried to bring in some athletes. These athletes today were talented before they came here. They were talented. The coaches put them in a positive environment, surrounded them with quality teammates, okay, and they prospered. The college gave them the opportunity to compete. But the athletes, they put in the dedication, the hours of practice to make this day become a reality. Now, in our midst today here, we have a physician's assistant, okay, Allison Burton. Okay. We have a senior VP at Lehman Brothers, Kevin Crowe here. We have a builder and a carpenter, Ted Beers. Where's Ted? Oh, yeah. We have a Major League Baseball scout for the Texas Rangers, Brian Lang. We have an associate athletic director and one of the nation's most highly regarded women's softball coaches at the University of Massachusetts, Elaine Sortino. We have a principal and administrator of a prominent Long Island high school, okay, Laddie Decker. We have a world leader in the development of water purification systems, Alou Nathan. We have a general manager of the Boston franchise in professional soccer, Baruch Karish. We have a very successful elementary education teacher and coach, Steve McMullen. We have a director of consulting support groups, which consults with airport management, Joe Howell. We have a Suffolk County police officer, Dave Regina. We have an assistant field hockey coach and educator at SUNY Albany, Lorraine Casca. So we have a very, very talented group of people here. Okay? But there are three other inductees who are here in spirit. We have a former college president of SUNY Geneseo and SUNY Fredonia, as well as alumni director at SUNY Oneonta being inducted today, Bob McVitie. We have an African American who went on to become a leader of the black community as a tireless worker for equality for the struggling black businessman, Steve Blackman. And last but not least, Dr. G. Hal Chase, whom I said before was the common thread to us all, okay, is being inducted today. And now, let's get this thing going. Steve, we want to induct our first Hall of Fame. Three-time All-American, and in 1967 was the NCAA National Champion in 200-yard butterfly. Beers grew up in Carthage, New York, served as co-captain all 4 years while never losing a race in New York State swimming competition. At the 67 Nationals, he established records for both 100 and 200 butterfly events. His career culminated with a selection as the college's outstanding male athlete in 1967. Upon graduation from Oneonta with a degree in elementary education, Beers spent 8 years as a science teacher in New Lebanon, Mass., where he also served as a high school swimming and diving coach. During that time, he worked toward a Master's of Education degree, which he received in '73 from North Adams State College. From '76 to the present, he is involved in the construction business. Ted, we're proud to have you here today.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the committee, and since our remarks are supposed to be brief, I will keep them all, I'd like to thank Don Wall. He took me, what I consider to be just an average swimmer, and made all this possible. Don, thank you.
I remember Don telling me that 10 years was like a freight train in the water. Whatever that means. Stephen Blackman, basketball. I got to do two things here. Stephen Blackman was a standout player, 1,000 points scorer for the basketball program in the 70s. Three-time All-SUNYAC selection, the SUNYAC Player of the Year at the completion of the 75-76 season. That year he was also selected by the National Association of Basketball Coaches and All-American, was drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. After playing professionally with the Long Island Ducks and in South America, Blackman's rights were sold to the Boston Celtics. The Celtics then wanted to have him play in France, but Blackman wanted to start a new life as a businessman, so he stayed in the States. Blackman and his family settled in Kingston, New York, where he started an electronics corporation. He spent time as a consultant for the federal government, tutoring young minorities who wanted to start their own businesses. At the time of his sudden death in 1991, he was on a business trip for the Johnson Control Company of Milwaukee. Stephen Blackman. Dr. G. Hal Chase, administrator and coach. Will his family please come forward? Tim? Accepting will be Tim Chase. When we set this committee up, we thought it would only be proper and fitting that G. Hal, who basically, as I said, has been the thread with all of us here, should be the first inductee in this Hall of Fame. So we're very, very proud of this moment. Hal Chase embodied Oneonta State athletics. From 1948 to 1985, he developed and looked over the athletic department at the college. Through his vision, pioneering, and committed spirit, he laid the foundation for the department that continues to move forward. Chase was part of a group of administrators that organized the New York State Intercollegiate Athletic Conference that is now the State University of New York Athletic Conference, or known as SUNYAC. He was honored by SUNYAC in 1985 with this Distinguished Service Award. Chase graduated from Portland State, then went to the University of Southern California and received a master's degree. He served his country as a tank commander in World War II, and upon his completion of service, attended the University of Buffalo, where he received his doctorate. He joined the Oneonta faculty in 1948 and was here until he was called to serve his country again in the Korean War. When the war was over, Chase returned to Oneonta to continue developing an athletic program that still thrives today. Dr. G. Hal Chase.
This is an amazing honor. I'm just really sorry that my father couldn't be here to accept it himself. I think athletics was my father's life. In fact, when you said that he was called back to the Korean War a second time, it sounds amazing that he could serve his country this way. But in fact, he was a coach during the Korean War and actually had Nelson Howard on a baseball team. He's been a coach, all his life. I think my father really loved this school. People were in it, and I think his only fear was that he would be discovered, that the administration would discover they were actually paying a man to do something that he would have done for free. So, thank you very much.
To Oneonta through the sport of field hockey. As a four-year starting midfielder, she led the team to a combined 47, 32, and 2 record. The squadron took 2 berths to the NCAA tournament, 1990 and 92, and won an ECAC title in 1991 while qualifying for the New York State Championship all 4 years. In the Individually, Casio was a 2-time National All-American, 3-time Regional All-American, 3-time All-New York State selection, and 2-time Oneonta Female Athlete of the Year. As a senior, she was the team MVP, co-captain, participant in the National Senior All-Star Game in Richmond, Virginia. Lorena grew up in Red Hook, New York, and after graduating with a degree in interdisciplinary studies in 1993, moved to the University of Albany, where she served as assistant field hockey coach for 5 years. During her time at Albany, she also completed a master's degree in educational administration, which she received in 1998. Lorena Casio.
For organizing such a wonderful event. Such a great thing to come back to. I'd also like to mention my thanks to Alzosa and all of the others who, during my time here, made it possible for the hockey team to reach such great heights. And I'd also like to express that I look back on my athletic experiences here, going out to certainly with a great deal of fondness. And I guess the spirit of competition and the achievement through hard work and commitment that I experienced here will be with me forever. And I certainly had a great number of great teammates here with me at that time. An outstanding coach and deputy mayor whom I still have the good fortune of working with. Most of all, though, I'd like to thank my family for their support throughout the years, and in particular my mom and dad who are here with me today. So thank you all so much. It's something very special. Thank you.
Kevin P. Protier, men's basketball. Get up here. Kevin Protier was the heart and soul of the basketball team that played for a national championship here in 1977. 1973 was the ECAC Rookie of the Year and was a 4-time All-SUNY player. He helped the 76 team to a second place finish in the SUNY in a season that included a win over the Australian national team. Protier is still the assist leader for the Red Dragon program 22 years after his graduation. Protier received his undergraduate degree in psychology and then attended RPI, where he earned his master's degree in industrial psychology in 1979. While at RPI, he served as the women's basketball coach. Congratulations on that. Protier resides in Rockville Center. He is currently Senior Vice President at Lehman Brothers, where he has worked since 1983. Kevin P. Protier.
Anyone else here? I'm very honored to be here. I had 4 great years at Oneonta. We had a lot of fun. Not only just playing basketball, but academically and socially. The coach gets a lot of credit for that. He got me to come up here over a cheese grilled sandwich with Fred Lisa. We had 4 great seasons here, and it was a lot of it was due to coach. I mean, he put a bunch of crazy guys together every year and made us into a real tough team. And I've heard everyone talk about the Oneonta family. I'll tell you, it's true. I mean, everywhere I go, you meet guys that graduated here, and it's just a great bunch of people. And besides them, the guys I played with and coach, my family, my mom and dad were at most of the games. They were great. My brothers and sisters, a lot of them are here, my friends. These guys made tons of our games. And I'd like to thank them. And then lastly, I'd like to thank my wife and my daughter. They make my life now as fun as it was when I was up here at Oneonta. Thank you very much.
After you graduated, Kevin, we missed your parents and your family a lot. A lot of our fan base, we lost a fan base. Laddie Adam Decker, soccer, basketball, and baseball. Laddie Decker was a standout in soccer, basketball, and baseball. He was a 2-time captain and 2-time All-New York State All-Star in soccer, team captain of basketball as a senior. His soccer highlight was scoring 5 goals versus Albany. You hear that, Dan Trotier? You hear that? In basketball, he was named the All-SUNY Tournament Team 1960-61. Decker, who attended high school in Mattituck, New York, has built a career as a teacher and administrator for Miller Place Schools in Suffolk County. He is currently elementary principal for the school system. He co-founded the Suffolk County Elementary Principals Association and directed the 1979 conference for the Institute of Educational Change. For the past 36 years, Decker has been involved in athletics as a coach and official. He serves as a junior high school soccer coach from 64 to 70 and as a high school basketball coach from 64 to 69. He was a Suffolk County baseball umpire from 64 to 89 and served the organization as president while receiving the Umpire of the Year award multiple times. Laddie Adam Decker.
I guess as a school person, you can't be brief. I'm used to standing in front of a microphone. I would like to put one thing in perspective for you today. I don't know if all of you really know how much of a dream this field house is. And to put it in perspective, I'd like to say when I came to Oneonta and met the athletic department in the basement of Old Main, Ms. Abbott, I heard that you were there to remember this. I met Hal Chase, and Hal Chase was the maker of dreams for me. As a transfer student, as a person who just lost his father, Hal became a surrogate father and a role model for me. And Hal had dreams. And this is the perspective. In playing soccer, we had to be careful about where we put the bonfire up here in the woods next to the soccer field to figure out, to take care of the field so that we could play on it properly. In baseball, we had to figure out how to get the batting machine from Old Main down to near Wharf Park. Okay, that's where we played all our baseball games. And if basketball was the best, we practiced in the basement of Old Main, and we used the pillars as picks. And we played all of our games in the National Guard Armory downtown Oneonta. Hal Chase had a dream to correct all those things. And I remember talking to him in the fall of '89, fall of '59, when I first came here. And his dream, he talked about a new field house and a new building, which was now the Chase Gymnasium. So certainly, in putting it all in perspective, this is an absolute wonderful achievement, not only for Hal Chase, but the entire athletic department of SUNY Oneonta. And I'd like to personally thank Garth Stam, who came to Oneonta when I was here, and our relationship was marvelous on the field. And over the years, I've learned, and Garth, I've shared this with him a few times during alumni games, how much I appreciated him in terms of being a leader and a person in my life that really cared about the students and the athletes that he worked with. And I know that's consistent in talking with all the people that have come to Oneonta over the years. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to play sports, grow up, and become an individual. I'd like to say the most important thing that happened to me at Oneonta in the years that I came here was in Old Main. I through the mailbox system there. Don't forget, Old Main was the library, it was the theater, it was the gym, it was the health office, it was everything. But down there in the mailbox system, I was able to meet my wife, Mary Jane Bowles, who was with me today with three of my 4 children and my 2 grandchildren. So Oneonta to me is very, very special, and I accept this award. I can't tell you what a thrill it is to come back after 40 years to be part of this great ceremony and see this magnificent facility. So thank you very, very much.
I can remember competing against Laddie in the old Armory and watching the games get closer and Hal hiking his pants up. And the closer the game got, the higher his pants came. I remember. Joe Howard, men's soccer. Joe Howard, the native of England, is one of the top players ever to put on a Red Dragon soccer uniform. He served as team captain all 4 years at Oneonta. He was a 4-time All-New York State selection, 3-time All-SUNY selection, and 2-time All-American. During the '72 season, he helped lead the Red Dragons to the NCAA National Tournament final versus Southern Illinois University of Edwardsville. After graduating from degrees in psychology, Howard began a professional career that spanned 10 years from 1974 to 1983. During that time, he spent seasons with the New Jersey Brewers in the California Sunshine of the American Soccer League and the Wichita Wings of the Major Indoor Soccer League. While living in Kansas, he spent time teaching boys and girls teams, coaching boys and girls soccer teams to successful records, as well as leading the Wichita State University club soccer team to a 41-6-2 record. Howard has spent the last 15 years in upper management of various companies. He is currently the director of a consulting support group based in San Mateo, California, which consults with airport management groups all over the world. Joseph Howard.
Thank you, Don. First of all, I'm really honored to be part of this celebration today and part of this inaugural class. So thank the committee for this knowledge. I would like to thank some special people, particularly Garth Stan, who took a chance in 1969 when he decided to go out and recruit some foreign players. Dave North and I were the first in a series of players to come to Oneonta from my hometown, Slough in England. It was a huge step for both of us to leave our home and to come to a new land, basically. What we thought would be a 4-year stint has turned into a 30-year stint. So it's been wonderful. The 4 years I spent here were some of the best of my life. I've developed some lifelong friendships with students, faculty, and staff. We had tremendous success in the 4 years, 1970 through 74, which culminated in our trip to the NCAA final. And much of that success was due to Coach Stan, whose kind ways and his understanding of some very complex individuals was quite amazing, really. And Garth and his lovely wife, Jean, who put up with an incredible amount during that time. I remember they invited us over to Thanksgiving dinner one time, and we were sitting around the table, and I counted 12 different nationalities. And many of the players who were new immigrants to this country blended wonderfully with us foreigners and some very understanding American players. So Garth used to shake his head many times at some of the crazy antics that went on, but he always kept us focused on what was the task at hand. Porky Lynch, our assistant coach, was a wonderful friend and a great resource to us all. Dr. Hal Chase was a wonderful man. He would always provide whatever support he could, and many of us needed it during those times. The rest of the coaching staff, Don Extel, Don Floelli, Al Sosa, Ed Kessler, Al March, and Don Moore, didn't quite know what to make of us all, I think, at that time, but they quickly became friends and mentors to us all. Some of the people in administration, Dick Burr, Vince Fody, Joe Nicolette, and David Branno, helped many of us through some very trying times, and I thank them. I would also like to thank two very special people here at Oneonta, George and Francis Wellington, wonderful friends, not only to me, but to many others that followed. We had a great group of guys who got along amazingly well, considering our diverse backgrounds. And we had some incredibly talented players who always pulled for each other. Even if some people got off track, which a number of them did, we always managed to rein them in and quickly turn them around. We supported each other and surprisingly seemed to enjoy all the miles we put in the mud and the snow on the field outside this building, which for some who had never seen snow before or even been in the cold was quite amazing. I'm referring to some of the Jamaican boys that came up, and it was amazing the first time they saw snow. We had some great teams and some very special people. Many great players, one in particular, a very dear friend, Farouk Reishi, who made us all look better. We opened the door for so many other people, particularly from my hometown in England. As many players followed and benefited from the education opportunities that were afforded to us by the Oneonta experience. We worked so very hard on and off the field, and we took pride in what we did, not only for ourselves, but for the college and the community. I'm glad the team is doing well this year. Ian, congratulations. And let's hope that's the start of a new era of Oneonta soccer. Thank you again for this honor, and I'm proud to share my brother.
Ryan Lamb, wrestling. Ryan made his mark at Oneonta in the sport of wrestling. During his 3-year career, his 28-1 dual meet competition while earning all SUNY honors every year, including being the champion in 1967. In 67 and 68, he was an All-American at 152 pounds, with 4th place and 5th place finished respectively. In 66 and 67, he was the champion and outstanding wrestler at the CW Post-Christmas Tournament. Lamb grew up in East Meadow, New York, and received his bachelor's degree in education in January of 1969. He spent his first post-Oneonta year as a math teacher and high school wrestling coach in the Syosset, New York school district, before being invited to try out for the Detroit Tigers in Major League Baseball. From 1970 to 76, he was a player in the Detroit Tigers minor league system before working as a coach. In 1980, he took a job with the Major League Scouting Bureau and stayed until 85, when he took his current position as a scout for the Texas Rangers baseball organization. Brian Lamb.
First of all, I'd very much like to thank the committee. It's an honor to go into any Hall of Fame, but to be in the inaugural class is the highest honor. I look around and I say, 30 years, where did they go? I look at this field house and I say, maybe I was 30 years, a little early, getting here. But I had a good time. And like people have said before, it was like a family. It was small, everyone knew each other. I have my first recollection of Oneonta was when Jim Burr literally met me on the street corner. I was accepted, and here I was. One of the first people I came, I was a decent wrestler. One of the first matches that I lost, that no one seems to ever remember, was to Al Sosa. The next year I turn around, Al Sosa is the coach. I have yet to beat Al Sosa. We wrestled every day, and he was a little bit like a pit bull. But he made me better as a wrestler. When I went to the Nationals, we were basically an infant program. Our school wasn't even listed on the board. We had to wait to the second day to have schools eliminated before Oneonta was even listed. A lot of that was more or less due to Al Sosa. Every day, he and I would wrestle. One other person I have to mention, the only other person who I basically wrestled every day was Gary Lear, who I'm sure one day will also be inducted. I enjoyed my stay here. Since that time, my life has been a little bit of a storybook. I really don't have what you would call a job. A job is when you wake up in the morning and you go, oh hell, I gotta go to work. Mine's not so bad. I go watch baseball games. Baseball. A lot of my happiness now is due to I have a great family. Probably the single best thing I ever did was marrying my wife, Jen. Thank you very much.
Robert W. McVitie, basketball. Accepting for Bob McVitie is his wife, Peg. Legends from the early 40s as a basketball player. And many say that people would come out just to watch McVitie play, a game that he made look so easy. Unfortunately, that would end with the start of World War II After graduating in '44, he earned his master's and doctoral degrees from New York University, during which time he worked as a teacher, coach, and principal in public schools. Following a decade as principal of the campus school and dean of the college at Buffalo State, McVitie became one of the youngest college presidents in the nation when he went to SUNY Geneseo in 1963. Throughout his nearly 3 decades in SUNY, McVitie was a respected advocate for SUNY public higher education. Following his retirement in '79, he returned to Oneonta to serve our college as the Director of Alumni Affairs. He also served as interim president of SUNY Fredonia in 1985 and returned to SUNY Geneseo as interim president in '88 and '89. Robert W. McVitie.
Could never dream 57 years ago when Bob and I had our first date, 57 years ago last September, that I'd be standing up here accepting this award for him. He would have been very thrilled to have been here and honored. And I know he would have said, he didn't earn this alone, this award. It went to the team, because it was teamwork. I also have a presentation for you. Something that Bob had cherished, and it's his letter that he had earned. So I thought you might like it for your memorabilia.
He pitched Oneonta the conference title in '68 and '69 with 2 4-hitters. He was team co-captain during his final 2 seasons, with an individual highlight of throwing a no-hitter against Plattsburgh in 1968. Steve was a tremendous leader for the baseball program, and everybody who played with Steve was made a champion by his winning attitude. McMullen spent his formative years as a student in the Oneonta public school system before he moved to Sydney to attend high school. He received both his bachelor's and master's education from Oneonta, and spent 1969 as a player with the Oneonta Yankees in New York Penn League, a year in which they won the Oneonta Penn League title. Since that time, he settled in the 4th grade at Green Central School in Green, New York, while also coaching varsity tennis, basketball, and baseball. Steve McMullen.
Thanks, Coach. This is a tremendous honor. Probably not going to get me reached down the road. I happen to be very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time 30 years ago. It's hard to imagine. Just up the road, I was pitching ball, I guess 30 years ago, 30 pounds lighter. I was also very fortunate to have 2 outstanding coaches, Coach Wally and Coach Axtell, who always stressed playing with a winning attitude. You give it your all. And the players who provided some support for me, and the players who, the real reason I'm up here is because of them, because of the coaches. I was very, very blessed to have an outstanding group of guys behind me. We were not only close on the field, but off the field. We were like brothers. It was a unique group. It was the best 4 years of my life. It was these gentlemen. And I made a promise to myself that if I see them again, our paths cross the way, like I say, I shared this day with them. So if you can bear with me, I'd like to mention their names. My catcher was Bill Shore. My 3rd baseman was Gordy Costa. My shortstop was Mike Barron. My 2nd baseman was Bill Bruni, Brian Hansen. My 1st baseman was Irv Silver. My left fielder was Mighty Grondwell. My center fielder was Jed McGinn. And my right field was Donnie Elder. They're my Hall of Famers, along with Coach Axtell, who led the way for us, who was an excellent role model and leader for us. So when I look at this award over here, it's not my award, it's our award.
signed by the Yankees, and we're waiting for him to get a chance to pitch. And I'd go down every night. The team was doing well, and so the Indian, he was like a relief pitcher. You're going to remember this story, aren't you? Well, finally one night we're down there and he gets a chance to pitch. They bring him in and out of the seventh or eighth inning. Bases are loaded. McMullen fires into the mound, steps up on the mound, takes his warm-up pitches, throws the first pitch in there, grand slam home. That was a wonderful day. Allison Merchant Spagnoletti, field hockey and lacrosse. Allison Merchant Spagnoletti was the top field hockey and lacrosse player during her time at Oneonta. Throughout her career in field hockey, she helped lead the team to a 44-15 record, with 2 straight trips to the AA of IA Athletics for Women. That was before the NCAA was the situation that you guys played in, right? Okay. The 1979 team won the New York State Championship, took the Eastern AIAW Championship, and placed third at the AIAW Division III National Tournament. The 1980 squad was second at both the New York State and EAIAW tournaments, and finished 7th at the AIAW Division III Championships. I should get some kind of award just for this. At the time of her graduation, Merchant Spagnoletti was the career leader in goals and still remains in the top 10 for the field hockey program. In lacrosse, she is ranked in the top 20 all-time in career scoring. After receiving her degree in biology, she worked for Bassett Hospital and then earned a physician's assistant certificate from the Bowman Gray School of Medicine. She currently practices in Elkin, North Carolina. Allison Merchant Spagnoletti.
Wondering if this is going to be like the Grammys and an umbrella before a place of music, you know, if you talk to them. But I would like to thank everyone involved with this field house, everyone involved in the planning of this wonderful weekend. It's been a pleasure to bring my family up from North Carolina and have my daughter, Madison, see where Mama went to college. I'd like to thank my father, who had some insight many years ago. When I was a sophomore in high school, I wanted to try out for the cheerleading squad. And he said, well, why don't you play that sport where you run around with a stick and hit the ball? So voila, I'm here. And as a true team player, you know, there are stars on teams, but the stars don't shine without the other members. And we had a number of great female athletes while I was here. Diane Van Tile, Mary Hollenbeck, my younger sister Julie Merchant, and my best friend Madeline Beeman, who came from Watertown to play for Oneonta as well. So those other people are important, and I would agree with some of the people who spoke before me that this is an award that we all can share. My experiences at Oneonta in general and through athletics, I know have made great impact on me as a person and my professional life. I know that because I feel like I am a success, and that it is because of my college education that I am where I am. So this is a great honor. I didn't really keep track of a lot of things that I did in athletics as far as awards, etc., but I certainly will keep track of this one. Thank you.
We had a tough time deciding what her best sport was. She was that good in both. Hallucinate. Hallucinate, like Ted Bears before him, dominated the pool during the early 70s. He earned All-American honors all 4 years after competing as a national finalist during that time in the breaststroke. As a senior in '73, he was crowned national champion in the 200-yard breaststroke. In Nato was undefeated as a SUNY swimmer for his entire collegiate career and was a conference MVP in 1973. He led his team to 2 undefeated seasons, was team captain 2 years, and as a senior was selected as the outstanding male athlete in Oneonta. Since his graduation from Oneonta, Nato has completed a master's degree in psychology of exercise from Indiana University. He then returned to Japan as a consultant to companies that build aquatics complexes, served as a college professor, and was the Japanese Olympic swimming and diving coach. Nato was turned patents granted to him by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for water purification devices into AquaQuest in the U.S. and WaterTech in Japan, 2 companies that he's the president of that manufacture and sell these devices all over the world. Hello, Nato.
I am very honored to be here. And after I left Oneonta about 25 years now, and I never thought it's going to be happy here. But I have to thank all the faculty members in PE department, and they were very, very good for me. And because of them, I have spent 4 years in Oneonta, and I really enjoyed it. But 29 years ago, one guy came up, and I couldn't speak English at all. And he asked me lots of questions, and I didn't understand, so I said, "Oh, yes." And I ended up in Oneonta Station. And everybody told me, I had such a hard time for spending Oneonta. But I think always, down below, he used to want to put up with me. The guy who doesn't understand the English and spent 4 years to make me graduate from Oneonta State and coach me. And I like to share this honor with Mr. Dumbo. Thank you.
Men's soccer. A native of England, Slough, right? Am I correct? Achieved the highest honor of any men's soccer player in the history of Oneonta. In his senior year, he received the Herman Trophy as the National Soccer Player of the Year. Hershey was a 3-time All-American, All-New York State, and All-Conference player during his career. He was selected as the College Player of the Year by Soccer Monthly magazine and was the MVP of the Senior Bowl. He was the first pick in the North American Soccer League NESL draft in 1975. At the end of his first professional season, which he led Tampa Bay to the NSL Championship, he was selected the Rookie of the Year and a League All-Star. Horatio played professionally until 1980 when he became a public relations manager for Casper's company in Tampa Bay. He worked with the World Cup tournament in '94, served as president and general manager of the Tampa Bay Mutiny of the Major League Soccer, and he's currently the chief operating officer of Massachusetts Professional Soccer in Boston. He owns 3 United Soccer League teams and has a software development company that is on the cutting edge of sports match analysis. Farouk Qureshi.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely honored to be here today. And I'd just like to share a few thoughts with you. I'm often asked when I travel, where I'm from. I think people have a hard time reconciling the color of my skin with a British accent with a Middle Eastern name. And I grew up I was born in Iran. I grew up in London, my formative years in London, UK. And I came to the United States in 1971 to attend Oneonta State. And today I live in Tampa and I work in Boston, community work in Boston. I'm currently on my third country of citizenship. I've been a citizen of Iran, United Kingdom, and now the US citizen. But when I think about where am I really from, I think of Oneonta as being my United States birthplace, because we talk about the American dream, and even though it's been 25 years since I left Oneonta, every time I return, it's like coming home. And I just want to share with you that most youngsters leaving home to go to college in this country, it's a time of liberation, it's a time of just spreading your wings and having some independence. And those are all the feelings that I had when I left England to come to Oneonta. But I also had some other feelings as well, and Joey alluded to some of those. The feeling of coming to a totally new country where we had no real support system. In my case, it was Joe Howard. And coming to a culture that's different from the one we were from, but not quite as different as the one that Arua's came from. But still, learning and developing a whole new root system. And I've got to say that as beautiful as this building is, it's bricks and mortar. And what makes Oneonta so special to me, and I believe to everybody else here, is not the buildings, it's the people that have touched our lives and made this such a special place. And in my case, there's so many people that I need to thank, because the whole community here just totally embraced me and my teammates and everybody else that I know as well. And the first person I'd like to thank is obviously Garth Stan, because he was my coach, and he's the person that I had the most contact with on a daily basis. And Coach and I didn't always see eye to eye when it came to things that we needed to do on the field in terms of tactics, even team preparation. But I'll tell you, the more years that pass, the more I appreciate the kind of coach that Garth Stan is and was, but more importantly, the kind of person he is. And I've learned so many lessons that I take with me in my life now from having been around Garth Stan. And I've got to say that, in the things I do today, nothing that I learned in the classroom do I apply in the way that I apply the lessons that I learned from the people that I was in touch with here. I talked about the coaching staff. Garth Stan was a tremendous influence on my life, and will be for the rest of my life. Corky Lynch, Garth's assistant, was a great friend. I'll give you an example of Corky Lynch. We would go on bus trips to away games, and on the way back, we'd put, a dollar in the pool. Someone didn't even have a dollar to put in the pool, and we'd just have a guess as to what time the bus would get back to the House Chase building. And whoever got the closest would just take the pool money, and it was a considerable amount of money for people that didn't have any money. And there were times when Corky Lynch would win it, and he would slip me the money because he knew that I'd be going home to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when I got off the bus. This is the kind of selfless act that was just so prevalent from our coaching staff. It's not just the soccer coaching staff, though. It's all the coaches in the school. Don Llewellyn, Don Axtell, Don Ball, Al Sosa. I could go through the whole list. They had a profound effect on my life. And before Don tells the story, I think I also was able to work with these guys on a payment crew in the summers just to make money. So I couldn't afford to go home in the summer, but I needed to be able to buy books and buy food. And by the goodness in their hearts, I was able to do some odd jobs and make a few bucks so that I could support myself through the school year. Those are the coaches. The teachers and administrators. Joe mentioned George and Francis Waddington. George's roots go back to Huddersfield, England. So we had some kinship. And I can't tell you the number of times that Francis and George would call and say, why don't you guys come down and have Sunday lunch with us? And they make us roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, just so we would feel at home. And there are so many other people, other teachers, administrators, who, because they opened their hearts to us, they embraced us, they showed such compassion for us that, we felt very much at home. And I hope that I'm able to take some of what I received from the people here and share that with people that I come in contact with the rest of my life. And I like to think that when I'm making decisions on hiring coaches for our teams, I want to win more than anybody else that I know. But the decisions to hire a coach, a lot of times I use a filter, before I look at the one-loss record, I look and see what kind of a person is this, what kind of character does this person have, what kind of personality does he have, does he work well with people, does he communicate, is he honest, does he have integrity, and I'll use those attributes before I look at whether the guy knows the game. Because it's a given that the people that apply for professional coaching positions have to have some level of understanding of the game. But those are the filters I use because those are the things that were so important to me because of the people that I was put in touch with when I came to this school. The community itself, we talk about building, but it's about this community. There are families in this town that embraced us. For me, one of my surrogate families was a laborer's family who owned Diana's restaurant. I can't tell you the number of meals I ate in Diana's when I was covered in flour, having worked the shift with Duncan Nesbitt's feed meal downtown. These are the memories that I had. I also have great memories of the games that we played, of all the athletic events that I attended as a spectator. I've never seen a basketball game before I came to this country. Never seen a baseball game. I had so many enriching experiences here. But the community really opened its heart to us, embraced us, showed us tremendous compassion. Joe Nicolette, Dick Berg, Vince Foden, and I'll throw out another name for you, Jay Powell. Wonderful, wonderful man. And he, again, embraced us and helped us. And so many times these people would know things about our lives, but we had no idea they knew, and would do things that would make our lives a little bit easier and help us to just get through. I never thought I'd ever finish school. I really didn't. I was so focused on playing soccer. But I'm proud that I have a degree from Oneonta State. I really am. And we talk about the American dream. I came to this country with $50 in my pocket. Today, I have a wonderful family. My wife, my soulmate, who's right here, enables me to absolutely live my dream the way in which Brian Lamb described it. They pay me to do something that I would pay to do. I watch soccer games. I meet with clubs. I talk to people about something that I love, and they pay me to do it. It's more than anybody can expect to be blessed with. And I'm so blessed to not only be able to do what I love, but to know so many wonderful people that have touched my life in such profound ways. And the last thing I'd like to say, President Donovan, is that this is a wonderful thing that's happened here, and that has been happening for many, many years. I hope that the coaches that we've talked about, the people in the administration, when we talk about the Hall of Fame, and I know that you have this in your plans, that we will be inducting many, many of these coaches because they really deserve the credit for all that's happening here because, we have a very small impact on this university. In my case, I played 3 seasons, I played 3 years. In the life of this university, that's a very, very short amount of time. When I look at Don Dwayne and see that he's been here 35 years, or Coach Stanley, as long as he's been here, every other coach has had such an effect on this program, that's lifetime commitment, that's dedication. And you look at the absolute influence that these guys have, from generation to generation, that's a remarkable thing, and it's such a positive thing. In closing, I'd like to thank Joe Howard for the tremendous friendship and support he's given me, not just while I was in Oneonta, but to this current day, we grew up in the same hometown in England, and he's been a godsend to me. I'd like to thank all my friends here who really made my time at Oneonta so special, and I hope that I'll always feel the way I do now, and I know that I will.
Told you
I'd like to
yesterday
thank my
about it.
family for the tremendous support that they give me, especially my wife and son. Thank you.
By the way, Lynch called me last night, he wants that money back. He says you owe him about $34. Oh, he spent it? Okay. David W. Regina, men's wrestler. David Regina was an outstanding performer for the wrestling program during his 4 years at Oneonta. He was a two-time All-American, four-time All-New York State wrestler, while also taking home 2 SUNY titles. At the 1991 SUNY Championships, Regina was selected as the outstanding wrestler of the tournament. 2-year captain, put together a string of 51 consecutive dual meet wins from 1989 to 1991. He was selected as the Oneonta Male Athlete of the Year as a senior. Regina's work in the classroom earned him honors as a Scholar All-American his last 3 years, and twice he was chosen as the top male scholar athlete. A native of Wisconsin, Regina entered the police academy after graduating from Oneonta and is currently employed as a police officer in the Suffolk County Police Department. In 1995, he won the New York State Law Enforcement Games gold medal in wrestling, and in 96, he won the International Law Enforcement Games gold medal. David W. Regina.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here today. My wife and my mom wanted me to write something down. I said, no, I'm just going to wing it. I think I'll be better that way. So I hope I do okay. I want to thank the committee, President Donovan. It's a great honor to be here. I hope I don't forget anyone throughout the speech. But a few people I want to thank. My teammates. There had to be 100 of them. The 4 years I wrestled here, for all 4 years, the greatest bunch of guys I've ever been with. I have their pictures in my house, every year's team picture, and these are the people I still talk about. My roommate, Bob Sauer, was my roommate. He was my co-captain in the wrestling team, my best friend. Every time I go to visit him, he lives in Massachusetts. These are the people we talk about. These were our best friends. I see one of my ex-teammates, Kevin Cotter, in the back. You know, it's great that he could be here today. It was good to look up and see that some of my teammates are here. Oneonta had to be the best 4 years I ever spent in my life. It was a great decision to come here. And, you know, there's a couple of people that are the main people that had to do with my success. One, my wife, she's a graduate of Oneonta. We went to school together. I don't know how many wrestlers there are out here. Of course, Brian, he could sympathize with this, but wrestlers aren't really in the best of mood. It's a long season from October to March, and you really don't eat too much, and you're really not in the best mood except maybe on the weekends after games. Even after all that, you wouldn't give it up for the world, but for my wife to put up with that for all those years, that's pretty good. She went to school here the same years that I went to school here. And obviously I can't leave out my mom and my dad. They're in the back. Some of the coaches here, I don't know if they know my mom and dad by face. They'll surely know my mom and dad from being in the wrestling stands when I went to school here. My mother and my father, I can count on one hand the tournaments that they missed. And something major had to be going on for them not to miss a tournament. They were either in their car or on their plane, coming to every tournament that I was ever in. Always in the stands. And I don't think, you know, I've been to a lot of wrestling tournaments in my life. Not many kids, you know, especially on the Division III level, had that type of support. And just as I was listening to Farouk's speech, again, I was thinking of how unbelievably fortunate I was that he comes to this country and a dollar in his pocket was unbelievable. Every tournament I left, I kissed my parents goodbye. And my father and my mother were like, "You doing all right? You need some money?" I never had to worry about anything like that. I never had to worry about where my next meal was coming from, who was going to pay the bills. You know, and some of these people talking up here, they obviously weren't that fortunate. So I could really see that I was really fortunate in that aspect. I never had to worry about that. They were always supportive, and I never had to worry about anything except my wrestling and my school grades. And last, but absolutely not least, was my coach, my great friend, Al Sosa. A little embarrassing, I have to thank one other person. He's the head wrestling coach at Sachem High School. I know his name's Jack, and I can't remember his last name right now, but I remember wrestling there, off season, and he was asking where I was going to go to college. And I said, and to me, I got accepted to a couple schools. I went to visit a couple schools, and I really wasn't crazy about any schools I visited. And I said, I'm going to go up to visit Oneonta in a couple of weeks. And he said, I know the coach over there. He said, David, he goes, I think you'll really like him. He said, I think you'll fit well into that program. He said, Al Sosa's a real good guy. He said, I really think you'll fit in there. And I remember coming up, we were coming up for a weekend, my father and I. I don't know if these are the exact days, but I was going to come up here on a Friday, and I was going to visit Portland on Saturday. Those were my last two schools. We came up, I met Coach Sosa in his office. He sent me up on a tour around the campus, just talking to him. And my father and I never went to Portland that next day. I came home and I really, out of all the schools that I went to, I knew I wanted to come here, and Coach Sosa was that reason. Right after that, I didn't want to go anyplace else. And I consider myself, I was a good wrestler in high school. I did well, I had some good achievements. But I became a lot better when I went to college. Al Sosa was there all 4 of those years. And I definitely don't think I'd be anywhere that I would be today. And I surely wouldn't be standing up here if it wasn't for him and the fact that he nominated me. When he called me up those months ago and said, "Oh, Dave, I nominated you," and he was explaining the whole thing.
Elaine Sortino. Elaine Sortino was an outstanding athlete in volleyball, basketball, and softball during her Oneonta years. Since her graduation in 1971, she has continued to be a champion for women's athletics as a highly successful administrator and coach at Yale and currently at the University of Massachusetts. Sortino's first coaching job was as an assistant softball coach at Yale from 71 to 73, while she was working toward a master's degree from the University of Bridgeport. Since that time, she's been at UMass, first as the volleyball coach from 79 to 86, and currently as the associate athletic director and head softball coach. The Yonkers, New York native posted a 218, 134, and 1 record as the volleyball coach at the university, but has become a legend as the softball coach. During her 20 years at the helm of the Minutewomen, she has guided her program to over 600 wins and better than a 680 winning percentage. Her teams have won 12 Atlantic 10 titles and made 9 trips to the NCAA tournament, reaching the College World Series 3 times. She currently has a string of 9 consecutive 30-win-plus seasons at the university and has had 13 such seasons overall. She is currently in the top 20 in active coaching wins and winning percentage at the NCAA Division I level, and she is the only New England coach to ever post 600 wins. Elaine Sortino.
Can't believe you read all that. I just want to thank you all for being so patient. I know that I'm at the end of the program. I used to ask my dad if we could start our last name in A instead of S. Never worked. But I have to say that President Donovan, Hall of Fame Selection Committee, to my mother and my sister who came through the night last night from Yonkers, New York, a deep and a heartfelt thank you. I am in total and complete awe of this award. I really, really am. Coach Llewellyn told me last April, I started to cry. And I have to be careful about what I say up here because it could probably start again. But, you know, these are the days that you dream of. Certainly when I was an athlete here, I never thought I'd be standing in front of you, you know, talking like this today. But in the 1990s, the NCAA has come up with the buzzword, student athlete. And probably 20 years before that, I was fortunate enough to have that experience here at Oneonta State. As a student, I was constantly reminded in my sophomore year by Vince Fodi that maybe all of my course curriculum did not take place in the Chase gym. I was very fortunate to have a woman by the name of Joan Iverson, who was, I was a history major here. My mother still can't figure out how I got to where I am. But I got my degree in social studies, and Joan Iverson was my history teacher, and she gave me everything that I have today in terms of teaching me to be a teacher. And that's just what a coach is, a teacher, except I teach a captive audience every day. As an athlete, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I have to tell you that in all the years I've worked at the University of Massachusetts, people say, well, how do you like what you do? And I feel like I get paid to have a great time. I've never felt like I've worked a day in my life. And I mean that sincerely. And it was because of my athletic opportunity here at Oneonta State that all of this came to be. When I came here, I was a basketball freak. All I knew how to play was basketball. And I went right to the gymnasium, of course, my first week here. And I wanted to know when basketball season started. They told me not till January. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do until then? And they said, well, maybe you could go out for the volleyball team. And so I did. And that's when I first encountered someone who was very special, who I'll leave for a minute. But I would like to go to Coach Abbott, because you gave me some of my greatest dreams while I was here. You used to sit and you used to talk about coaching the elite Olympic athletes on the kayak team. And I used to dream about what it could be like to be at that level and to compete at that level. And you gave me some of my greatest aspirations. She also kicked my butt a lot out of the gym and told me to go to class. In addition to her, in the spring I had to do something after basketball, and so I started to play softball for the first time in my life. And I asked people, well, what was a good position? And they said, well, the catcher runs the team. So I said, okay, that's what I want to be. And I went to Coach Axtell, put on all the stuff, the shin guards, the chest protector, the face mask, and he started slamming balls up against the wall of the gym and teaching me how to block and everything like that. Look where I am now, coaching a softball team. Who would have ever thought that? But last but not least is probably my greatest mentor here, which is Carol Blazina. This building, I know that this building is a dream come true. I wish I could take it home to UMass with me. I'm so proud to be an alum and stand in it, and I know how key you were in terms of getting the money from the legislature and lobbying over there, because you work for the president now. But you were my coach. You were my coach, and you were one of my greatest role models in life. You know, I don't know where I would be without this family, and I know that this is homecoming weekend, and this has truly been a homecoming for me because the athletic department at Oneonta State was truly my family while I was here. I'm so proud to be an alum, and right now I'm very, very actively involved in the recruiting process at the University of Massachusetts, and I'm recruiting young women all the time. And I tell them as they consider their choices, think about this decision that you're making about where you're going to attend. Because whether you're going to come to UMass or not, you're about to make a decision, and it's probably the greatest life-shaping decision you'll make in your life. And I say also to them that it should be something you're excited about, because these truly are the greatest years of your life. I say that with absolute conviction, because this institution truly gave me the greatest years of my life. Thank you.
Had another honor bestowed on her here this week, and I've had a chance to see her teams play. One of her pitchers from last year just made the U.S. Olympic team, and that is a very, very, very high honor for the coach. So Elaine, congratulations. We got to get this thing closed up here. Everybody take out their handkerchiefs now, because I spent a lot of time on this last part. In closing, these people excelled above and beyond our expectation. Given all that they've had to give and then, and somehow they found a deeper reserve of strength and courage, skill and determination, intelligence and fortitude from which to draw. It is right and proper that we present them these tokens, to tell them that we are proud of them, and that we recognize the contributions that they have made. But I wish them something else this morning. I wish them the award of a life well lived. I wish them the respect of their fellow human beings for their good deeds and their unselfishness. I wish them the sense of accomplishment that comes from giving of themselves, and I wish them the love of many that will warm them through their coldest days. I wish them a time of reflection so that they may realize that the world is a better place for them having been in it. What they have accomplished so far, as this occasion testifies, is ample proof that all of these wishes are within their grasp. May they continue to strive for perfection to benefit us, as their accomplishments have filled us with pride and thankfulness that they have been part of our lives. And now, I think we want to walk the new Hall of Famers down and show them the plaques that we have. And once we do that, then we will allow the people in the audience also to move down. Stephen, do you want to set this up?
Yeah, what we like is the new inductees to move down in front of the Hall of Fame area. Everyone else can stand up as well, and we all can kind of drift down that way if you'd like to, but we're going to unveil Dr. Donovan and myself all the night long. And we'd like to have Dr. Donovan to unveil the class. This wall will transcend many years of Hall of Famers. This is just the beginning. The wall will expand as we go on through the years to accommodate many more. But nowhere will there be a more special class than the very first one. With our honor at this point, we will go ahead and start with 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. The men's soccer game at the National Soccer Hall of Fame begins at 2:30. At halftime, we're going to introduce the Hall of Famers to our homecoming parents weekend audience. So that will take place 2:30 to the halftime. We hope we see you all out there. Okay, congratulations.
Better.